Drag me. Where you at, Star? Page 24? Alright, thumbs up if y'all. Star. Drag me. Alright, thumbs up if everybody got made it to page 24. Alright, I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to start with Mrs. Winwick. Twist your nose. Put your finger on Mrs. in the middle of the page. Page 24 in the middle. Mrs. Winwick. Got it? Middle of the page. Right here, Myra. Got it? Got it, Corey. Good job. All right. Follow along as I read aloud. Mrs. Winwick twists her nose suspiciously, as if she thought Violet may be making fun of her. You're very small to be traveling alone. Where are you going? New York City, said Violet, thinking it was none of Mrs. Winwick's business. And what takes you there, if I may ask? I'm going to visit my mother, I'm going to visit my sister, my grown-up sister. Young ladies, said Mrs. Winwick, should not travel unaccompanied on the train. Is your sister married? No, said Violet sharply. Then why is she not living with your parents? Are your parents still living? Yes, said Violet, but they're very busy with my brother Stephen. He's still recovering from the war. Violet hoped that would silence Mrs. Winwick. A recovering war veteran was a very impressive thing to have in the family. All the more reason your sister ought to have stayed home to help. In my day, a girl's greatest joy was being of service to her brothers. I myself worked my fingers to the bone in a glove factory to pay my brother's tuition at Harvard, and I felt privileged to do so. Mrs. Winwick said defiantly, as if Violet had suggested she hadn't. Privileged to do so, but I suppose your sister is one of these new women. She made it sound like a disease. Violet glanced around surreptitiously. What does surreptitiously mean? Secret. Good job. Violet glanced around surreptitiously for another empty seat. It would be very rude to get up and walk away from Mrs. Winwick, but Mrs. Winwick was pretty rude herself. Mrs. Winwick seemed to sense what was on Violet's mind and changed the subject. I'm dying, you know. You know, Violet, she said. Violet stared at her. She felt bad for thinking uncharitable thoughts of Miss Winwick. I'm sorry. Too kind, Mrs. Winwick murmured. What of? Said Violet, and then realized that this was an extremely rude question. Mrs. Winwick didn't seem to think so. Have you heard of tuberculosis? Yes, said Violet. Regretted she'd been rude. She added, I'm sorry you have tuberculosis, Mrs. Winwick. I don't have tuberculosis, said Mrs. Winwick. Violet stared again. But I thought you said, those foolish doctors don't know what I have, said Mrs. Winwick with proud finality. Oh, said Violet. Dozens of doctors have seen me, and none of them can say what the matter is. What is the matter with me? Not one. Maybe there's nothing the matter with you, Violet ventured. Excuse me? Are you a doctor? Asked Mrs. Winwick coldly. Of course not, said Violet, irritated. I should think not, said Mrs. Winwick. It's a revolting thing for a female to do, becoming a doctor, absolutely revolting. Since this was what father had always said, and mother had, as always, agreed with him, Violet figured that was what most people thought. She had never wanted to be a doctor herself. She'd never really thought about being anything. She had known what was in her future, the hope chest and the marriage, and that was it. But Chloe had wanted to be a nurse. And Flossie, before she died in the influenza, had wanted to be a reporter. That's important, remember that. And some of Flossie would always be in her. Violet remembered that from Chloe's letter. That was why Violet found herself answering, "I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a reporter." Miss Renwick gasped. "A reporter?" "A reporter," said Violet, "like Nellie Bly." Remember that name? "She found news from the trenches in Europe, during the war." Somehow, Violet felt that she had to say this to Mrs. Renwick for Flossie's sake. "How absolutely appalling," said Mrs. Renwick, rolling her eyes upward and fluttering her eyelashes at the same time, which had the disconcerting effect of making her eyes go all white. "A female in the trenches?" "There were plenty of females in the trenches," Violet said. "At the end, the Germans were sending in women and boys, 14 years old, and the Russians—" "A young lady does not need to know anything about trenches," Mrs. Winwick interrupted firmly, "nor about Germans and Russians. Let us change the subject. Where does your sister live?" Violet felt instantly dejected. She didn't know where Chloe lived. The return address on the envelope was 265 Henry Street, New York City, but she had no idea where that was. She had a vague idea that New York was bigger than Susquehanna, Pennsylvania. This part of her plan was not figured out too well. Mrs. Winwick was watching her closely. "I'm not sure exactly where," said Violet. "Ah, well, she's meeting you at the station anyway," Mrs. Winwick said. And having settled Violet's travel arrangements to her satisfaction, she went back to her main problem. "Violet, a female can't be a reporter, and that's final." Violet didn't know what to say. She knew it was very wrong to contradict adults. And she didn't even really want to be a reporter. That had been Flossie's dream. Chloe had always told her that a girl could be anything she wanted to be. So had Violet's sixth grade teacher, Miss Elliott. But Violet had certainly never heard that from anyone else. So she bit back any response. She turned and looked out the window at a smoke-blackened brick factory. Its hundreds of window panes too grimy to see through. "I'm glad you've decided to see reason," said Mrs. Renwick. "I'm an old woman, and a dying woman to boot, and my words are worth hearing. A woman can't be anything she wants to be, because that's not the way the good Lord made us. He made us to be the helpmeets. He made us to be the helpmeets of men and to be protected by them.
I'm gonna get a cup.
If women go out being doctors and reporters and demanding to vote, then how can they expect men to protect them anymore?" Violet hadn't said anything about voting. Getting the right to vote was Chloe's first project. Father had said that it was sending Chloe off to college that had filled her head with blank food. Kendall, you better stop it. Father had said it was sending Chloe off to college that had filled her head with damn fool crazy ideas. But Violet knew that Chloe's head had been filled with crazy ideas before. Violet didn't much care about voting. And we're gonna stop right there. Yes. Open up your, what's the page? No, wait. Stop. Yeah, we got another number 0. We got 2 minutes of silence. Think about what we just read. Everything that happened. Better stop first. I was talking to one of our friends at the camp walked in, and she's gonna try to get everyone their own book so you can read for a homeroom, and that way you guys can read faster. That's one of the things they noticed. Some of the people in the classroom read too slow or not well enough. So if y'all bring up a Psalms and read the chapter beforehand, then when you come to class, it'll be faster. Don't talk to me. You got a minute and 25 seconds. Oh. What did we just think about everything we just read about? Think about everything that just happened to Chloe. From the time she found the letters, getting into a fight and an argument with her mom, getting into it with her daddy. Boy, you look, I caught you. What happened? You gotta sit down. What?
You pulled him.
Where the camera at?
Huh? Right there. He caught you in 4K. He caught you in 4K.
I caught him.
You
I caught him.
You pushed him.
I caught him.
No, you didn't.
I was behind him. I'm gonna put when you push somebody to go that way.
You pull him. You pulled him at that. Like this.
Your nose out.
Your head out.
Your breath out.
So with yours. That's how you figure it out. Oh, he said your neck had a burn like
You see my ears are big?
Yeah.
You couldn't see that with those big old eyes. You got 4 of them.
Oh! That's like bird have eyebrows.
My beard has eyebrows?
No, he said that's why you really got eyebrows.
I barely have eyebrows. You barely have a line.
Oh!
If I had hair, it wouldn't look like that.
But you don't.
But I don't. But if I did, it would look like that.
Then why do you have a black spot right here?
Why do I have a what?
You have a little black spot right here.
Oh, why don't you have a brush or a comb right there?
I do.
Oh, you do? Oh, man. Look like you brush your hair with a brush. We can go all day, Tim. We can go all day, Tim. All right, that's your 2 minutes. Go to page 3 in your workbook. Put your name and your date at the top of page 3. Yeah, put that in your. What's that? Who was absent yesterday?
Me?
Corey and Ezra. Page 3. Put your name. Today is February 4th. 10 days until Valentine's Day.
What you say?
Put your name. Andrew, don't touch it because it's going to smooth. So wait for it to dry before you put Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and also was no more sea. Then I'll say when I Y'all just reported something that happened in a girl's bathroom. Some girls, y'all might not be able to use the bathroom no more, but I'm telling my sister and Miss Moore. Stop it. Give it up. That's too much. somebody read the top of that for me? Thank you very much. Chastity.
After reading chapter 2.
Wait, stop. Read your verse.
That was up in a book.
And this is the Bible? Okay. Okay. Alright, go ahead, Chaz.
After reading chapter 2 of the Hope Check, look at the artwork inspired by the chapter and answer the following questions.
Everyone, let's look at this artwork. Look at that picture on page 3. Alright, cool, someone different. Alright. Yo, look at that picture. Look at your picture. We just read chapter 2. Can I get a reader for question number 1? Go ahead, Julius, read one number 1 for us.
How does the illustration reflect the description in the text?
So, how does the illustration? What's another synonym for illustration? How does the picture? How does the picture reflect? How does the picture reflect the description from the text? Look at that picture. How do you think that reflects what we read in the text? Go ahead, Colin.
An interruption, Ms. Coleman.
Mr. Preatto.
Mr. Preatto, is Garland with you?
No, but I think grab him from next door if you need him.
Okay, thank you. He's going home. I can just buzz over there. If it's not, that's fine.
Go ahead. Thanks. So, looking at this image, what do you think the trenches are? Oh, I'm sorry, cut in, go.
I think that this is a picture of the war.
A picture of the war. What do you think the trenches are? Edgar, what do you think the trenches are?
I think what the churches is when they have to, when they're going to war and have to,
When they go into war and have to get? London, what do you think the trenches are?
I think the churches are when,
Looking at this picture, what do you think the trenches are? Huh? You gotta tell me. Right, so this is a trench. They dig a hole in the ground and they get into it. It's like a long, it's almost like a valley, all right, where they can walk here. So this is the ground up here. This is the top layer of the ground. And what they do is they dig it out in a V shape to where they can walk and not be seen. All right. What do you think the man is doing? What do you think this man is doing? Stop talking if it's not your turn. Go ahead, Sil. Okay, he may be looking to shoot somebody. What do you think he's doing, Amari? Huh? You think he in a war killing animals? Okay. Okay. Andre, what you think this man doing? You think he's building something? Okay. This is a rifle. This is a rifle. What you think he's doing? Go ahead. All right, what you see?
I think he's trying to kill someone, so they don't know that the what's it called? Trench is right there. So when they hide under there, the people won't know, so he could just shoot them.
So you think he's mostly like on the lookout?
Yes.
All right, cool. He's on the lookout. What about What do you think life was like for him? Brandon? I think that life was sad. What do you think? What? No, that's a lady. That's a man. What do you think? What do you think life was like for the soldiers? Okay. What do you think life was like? Harsh.
Yeah, because
Not why. Not why yet. What do you think? What do you think life was like?
I think the life was hard.
You think it was hard? Last one.
I think life was not easy.
You think it wasn't easy? Okay. We read what in the book will make you. What in the book lets us know that these soldiers had a rough, tough, hard, sad. What in the book, Kendall? Think about chapter 1, 2. What inference can we make that the war was hard for men? I'm gonna do next.
You said what?
Go.
When they introduced him, he said, they said that he went, and then came back from the war, he was recovering from the war.
He was recovering from a war. What else do we know about Stephen?
He went to college.
Chapter 1, think about chapter 1. He wasn't injured.
Better. Was it better? He was mentally broken.
He couldn't talk.
Oh.
That's how we know life was probably really, really hard. One, like Colin said, he was recovering from the war. And two, in chapter 1, they told us his brother didn't talk. Her brother didn't talk. That lets us know that life of these men was tough and hard. What about this woman? What do you think she's doing? What is she doing? Corey, what is she doing? What is this woman doing? Sit down, Mari. Get your feet out there, Chan. Sit down. What is she doing? Stop. I can't hear you. Huh? She on a war? On a rock. Yeah, she's on a rock, but what is she doing? What is she doing, London?
Writing.
She's writing. What do you think she's writing about? Amari? Maybe how hard it is to be in a war. What do you think she's writing about?
I think she's writing about her daily life.
Her daily life? Daily life?
Daily.
Daily life?
Like daily. What she do every day?
Yeah, like daily life.
Yeah.
What you think she's writing about?
I think she's writing about. Wait.
Think about the book we just read. Think about chapter 2. We just read chapter 2.
She's writing about what's going on right now.
Okay. Now we cooking with grease.
What?
She's writing about what's going on. She's writing about what? She's writing about what? Who do you think she is? Stop. Don't say nothing. We just read this in the book. We just read it. Who do you think this is?
Her sister Chloe.
No.
What?
No.
Reporter.
Yes. It's the reporter. Do we remember that reporter's name? I said remember that when I was there. Who are you so close? What is it? No. Nellie Bly. This is the reporter, Nellie Bly. She's taking. Okay, good job. So what's her name? Who is she? And what is she doing? She's not reporting the news. The war. Thank you. She's reporting the war. Good job. You have 10 seconds.